Hey guys, it's Tim Shermack, and welcome back to another episode of the Platform Marketing Show. I'm joined today by Cheyenne McGriff. Cheyenne is in Rapid City, South Dakota. Cheyenne, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
So we finally have an awesome client in Rapid City. It's one of those cities that, like, over the years, we'd always just like looked at a map of the U.S. and there's kind of these like mid-sized towns all across the country where, like, man, that would be a perfect market for platform. I mean, Rapid has like what 100,000 people, something like that.
Yeah, with surrounding areas. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like a big city, but
Mm-mm.
it's certainly not a small town either. And it's like if we could just get the right client in that area, I think they would do really, really well with platform. And then Cheyenne joined the Platfam back in 2023, I
Hmm.
believe. So as of this recording, we're right about 2 years into your experience with platform. Let's share the numbers before we dive into everything else to give people context of where your business was, where it's at now, where you think it's going. I know that you mentioned prior to ever joining the platform marketing program or starting any of this, marketing stuff that you're doing now, your best year ever was 9 million.
Hmm.
So you were already doing quite well because to give some context to that, I'm from the Midwest myself. I've probably been to Rapid City more times in my life than anyone who doesn't live in Rapid City. That was always our family vacations in the summer. Was we'd go to the Black Hills and the KOAs there, the Mount Rushmore, etc.
Hmm.
Um, so like I know that Rapid City is maybe a little bit more expensive than it was, 5 years ago, but it's still very affordable relative to many areas of the country where I'm sure you have sold many $250,000 homes. It's not all $800,000 homes or $500,000 homes.
Hmm.
To sell 9 million, even, I'm just giving a little preface there. You had to do some pretty significant volume, I imagine, to hit 9 million. Like that's not selling 10 houses, right?
Right, right.
And so 9 million was your best. Then you heard about the platform marketing program. By the way, how did you first get connected with us? Was it a referral or a Facebook ad or what was it?
It was our friend Ashley Goodrich in Spearfish.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yep,
I didn't know that.
she had posted an end of the year recap, and I have always looked up to her. She's an amazing agent and very well known and respected in our area, and because our towns are close
Yeah.
together, we're all
Yep.
kind of little small towns out here. And I saw she had posted one of the successes she had for her year, and she had tagged you and Platform, and she said, "This is such a big help for my business, and thank you to Platform for all you've done." And so then I clicked, and then I kept clicking, and then I set up a call, and then I joined on.
Cool. I actually did not know that, but
Hmm.
that makes perfect sense.
Yep,
Are you with Remax or which brokerage are you with?
I am. Yep, I'm with Remax Results in Rapid City.
Okay, so that explains the connection to Ashley because I know Ashley's also with Remax. Ashley, I think, was like the number one producer for Remax the entire state of South Dakota for the last couple years or something like that.
She's a powerhouse.
Yeah, which is remarkable considering Spearfish has like 15,000 people, and you're going
Hmm.
up against agents in towns that are much much larger than Spearfish, whether it's Rapid, Sioux Falls, etc. So
Hmm.
cool. I did not know that. So you apparently saw Ashley Goodrich on Facebook. She kind of just casually mentioned platform. You looked us up, found that out. You've now been with platform for 2 years, and we'll get
Hmm.
into that 2 years later. But now you're at the point about 2 years in where we're recording this mid-year, and you're probably on pace to hit 20 million this year.
Hmm.
Um, I know you said you just wrote an offer on a property that you're hoping goes under contract at like 2 million, and you said that they're selling $1 million house. Was that right?
Hmm. Yep.
So that's way above your price range. So that's awesome. Like those are, that's a lot more expensive than most of the homes in the Rapid area. And then you also mentioned that you have a meeting with a builder later today.
Yep, I do, with a high-end builder. So it's very exciting. And the primary reason for the call was he had always kind of commented on my posts on Facebook, but he just wanted to hear my marketing ideas.
That's awesome. So that's the exact way you want to start a conversation like that because he's actually coming to you asking for marketing,
Hmm.
advice so you can lead with value early on in the relationship. So I sprinkled in all these anecdotes, mentioned all these numbers, right? Because I want to kind of lay the foundation here of you were selling 9 million before the platform strategy. Now you're going to sell this year probably 20 million. If a couple things go your way, who knows? You
Hmm.
might hit beyond, maybe somewhere between 20 and 25 million. So your business, it's fair to say, has actually at this point more than doubled. You're on pace to have more than doubled your business. So now in hindsight, looking back at the last 24 months, it's like, yeah, like this platform strategy thing worked. But it's also part of for you, it's also part of a larger, I think, trend or commitment. You've just been investing in a lot of personal development and growth
Mm-hmm.
in the last couple of years. I know you've also worked or are working with Lindsay Litton
Yep.
as a coach, kind of helping you design the business model of how you want your life and your business to look. But it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't all sunshine and rainbows the last couple of years. I know that you had a comment in the Platform group, our private Facebook group, in the last month or two, where you kind of got
Mm-hmm.
vulnerable and you shared like, hey, the whole first year I was a platform, I was basically second guessing, did I make the right decision here? Because I was investing all this money and my business wasn't necessarily growing that first year. Would you mind expanding on that and sharing kind of what it was like being in that situation for that first year where you're like, I don't think this is working, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say that my business had, like many agents, been referral, repeat clients in my sphere for the entirety of my first 5 years. And platform was really the first major marketing move I made, an investment I made back into the business. And I had shared in the group that at first I was guessing, like, did I do the right thing? Am I putting my money in the right place? But on the other side of it, I was not doing the work. I was not submitting all the ads that I could. I was not submitting the listing videos that I could. So I had to just really have a talk with myself and say, Cheyenne, you're investing in this company. They're investing in you with providing all of the material information and basically giving you the exact roadmap of what to do. And are you taking full advantage? So I just had to really dive in and determine how can I improve what I'm giving to this marketing company and how I'm showing up. And that started, I mean, just as last year, I've submitted more ads, more listing videos, and I've really noticed the impact that it's made. And it really just came down to me not making excuses and determining that I was the one that really needed to put my time and energy back in to make it work.
And so it's kind of like this analogy I often mention where signing up for platform or any marketing program out there, right? It's like buying a gym membership, or maybe
Mm-hmm.
it's like buying a premium gym membership like CrossFit or something like that, where it's more expensive than just getting a $50 a month a generic gym membership.
Yep.
But the ROI that you get from that membership has absolutely nothing to do with you buying the membership. It's
Right.
purely a function of how many workouts do you actually fit in a month, because you could actually not have a gym membership and just go for a long walk every day, and you'll be in better shape than someone who buys a gym membership but only lifts weights once per month, right? Like
Yep.
it has nothing to do with having the membership. It's what do you do with it, right? So you kind of had that realization at some point in that first year that, hey, I've been doing platform, I'm technically paying to be in the platform program, but maybe I'm not taking full advantage of what they're telling me to do. I'm maybe like
Mm-hmm.
picking and choosing the stuff I feel like doing, but that's not what's going to make me successful, is like waking up every day and just only doing the things that I'm in the mood to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yet still you stuck with it,
Mm-hmm.
because obviously you're still here. You're now being interviewed on the podcast because you're this case study. You're a success story, right? Like what made you stick with it all throughout that first year and into probably the 18-month period? um what made you stick with it? Because a lot of people at that point, especially with how down the real estate market is, if they tried a marketing program, especially kind of like a premium program like platform, it's expensive, right? Like platform is not cheap. uh what made you stick with it after a whole year of kind of feeling like, I don't really know if this is working, I don't know if it's not working, but I also know that it's not like totally blowing up my business in the first year?
Mm-hmm.
Was there people that you looked up to, or did you have any conversations with other platform clients, or maybe your account manager? Like what was it that made you decided to stick it out for the second year?
There were a lot of things that made me decide to stick it out. Number one is I am competitive, as you could probably guess, being in the real estate world. And I didn't want anyone else to be able to snag my spot just because I wasn't doing the work. So I said, I have this spot, I value this spot, and I need to put the work in to make sure it works for me and not just give up. So I
Sure.
wasn't willing to give up early. Additionally, I had gotten a lot of pushback in my market when I first started about these videos, and videos aren't worth it, and videos aren't going to grow your business, and why are you wasting money on social media? And I just really wanted to prove everyone wrong that this works. These videos work.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I remember when I first started in real estate, I had put down to be the best known agent on social media, and I was like, I'm going to make that happen with the platform. Additionally, I love the community that platform provides. I gain so much knowledge and value from being in the platform, from going to the mastermind, from just having the conversations that we're able to have as a community in our platform network. I have learned so much from the other agents that are in the community. I have gone to retreats like that Cara Farah has hosted and learned so many things beyond just marketing, about business, about being a better agent. And that community piece of it is huge to me. And I didn't want to give that up either, because I really do feel like I'm part of a family. And I had seen it work in so many other agents' worlds and lives. And I knew that if I just continued to put in the effort, that it would work for me. And I have so much fuzzy ROI from platform. It's like I'm not able to track it really. I mean, so often I'll have people say, "Oh, I see you on Facebook," or I bought a car and the manager at the dealership was like, "Oh yeah, I know you. You're that agent on Facebook." And I went to a listing appointment, and I had been to these folks from another agent, and they said, "Oh, we were so glad it was you because we wanted to hire the girl from Facebook." So just that kind of feedback. And everyone, every day I see someone, they're like, "Wow, you're pretty busy. I see you all over Facebook."
And again, you aren't in a tiny town where it's not like, oh, everyone sees me or recognizes me because my town has 4,000 people. I mean, you technically live in Wall, right?
I do. Yep.
But the area you work, Rapid, has, like you said, the area has over 100,000 people. So it's
Mm-hmm.
not this like tiny town where, oh, people recognize me on Facebook because there's 800 people who live here or something, right?
Yep.
So it means your ads really are getting a lot of reach. Cheyenne, you mentioned fuzzy ROI. Would you mind like explaining that, putting it into your own words? Like when you say, hey, I'm getting fuzzy ROI, what does that mean? Because that's a phrase a lot of people in the platform use, but someone who's listening to this podcast that isn't currently working with platform probably has no idea what you're talking about. Would you mind like trying to define that in your own words and why it's such an important part of this overall strategy?
Yeah. So sometimes it can be a little bit hard to track that, oh, this exact deal came to me directly from an ad that they viewed online. Fuzzy ROI to me is being top of mind all of the time for my entire retargeting audience, being top of mind in my community, people recognizing me as the realtor in the Rapid City Black Hills area that I cover. And just having that feedback from people, see my ads, they recognize me from it, they realize I'm in real estate, and they see that I'm out working. So to me, it's just having that recognition, and it's having that connection. I feel like these people can come up to me and say, "Oh, I recognize you from Facebook," because they feel like they know me from what I post. And it's a fun way to really be my authentic self and also show that I'm in real estate and also connect with the community at the same time.
So it's really just like this acknowledgement of, hey, I'm doing this marketing, I'm showing up, I'm filming videos, I'm staying top of mind with people. And because there's so many potentially different photos or videos or ads that someone might see, me in, they are not going to necessarily even remember which particular ad they saw or if they saw an ad, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they remember me. So if they don't even remember, there's probably not going to be a very accurate way for you to track if you know which ad they came from. So like fuzzy ROI is kind of this just acknowledgement that like you're probably not always going to be able to track and attribute exactly which ad or which video or which Facebook campaign or Instagram campaign or YouTube video or whatever that a certain prospect came from, but you know that your marketing influenced them indirectly in some way.
Yes. And I would say when we had issues with Facebook glitching with ads for a short time, I did not realize how much I valued my ads until they weren't working for a short period of time, because I had people like, "Wait, we haven't seen you on Facebook. Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm okay." And so it really was like, you don't know how good you have it until
Yeah.
it's gone for a little bit, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, this is so incredibly valuable.
Yeah, it's so annoying. So just to give a little bit of history there, like Facebook ad accounts had some glitch a couple months ago, and we're actually still really working through it. Facebook really hasn't honestly fixed the issue per se, but they weren't letting people's cards be billed for ads. So if you were spending money on ads, even if you had a card that worked, whatever, Facebook wouldn't accept the cards. And so no one could pay their bills for running Facebook ads. And then Facebook won't let you run more ads if you don't pay the bill. But the problem was their system was not letting you pay the bill. And so we had a bunch of clients who went a month or more without running actual Facebook ads. Like we were still making the posts and editing the videos and everything, but the actual ads weren't being run to reach, 50,000 people or whatever. They were being seen by a couple hundred people. And clients like you that this happened to, because it didn't happen to all of our clients. It was this glitch in Facebook that affected maybe 20% of platform agents. I have no idea why it wouldn't affect all of them at the same time, but whatever. And you said you noticed, hey, in just that, month or 6 weeks or whatever it was that you weren't running ads, like you noticed that, oh, wow, okay, people can tell that I'm not as top of mind as I used to be. I actually had an agent who just joined the platform again, like this last month here. He had joined platform a couple years ago, quit, and then a year later he's signing back up again because he realized that in that year that I wasn't doing platform, I added up how much business I missed out on, and it was in like the millions and millions of dollars of sales volume, because he's like, I actually had someone tell me that was a high-end listing, I think in his area, that like, oh, I would have worked with you, but I thought you quit real estate. So like when he stopped all the social media marketing he was doing with platform, like people literally thought he had like gotten out of real estate, and then he's missed out on all this business. Then he also closed and converted some business of leads he had generated a year ago. So he kind of like also underestimated the long tail effects of just like that constant planting seeds, and staying top of mind with people. But it is a long game, right?
Yep.
That's really all that fuzzy ROI is trying to capture, is just this reality that branding is a long game. You're not going to be, it's not like Zillow leads where it's like, hey, I got this lead on this date and I closed them on this date and I can exactly track how much commission I made from this money I sent to Zillow. Like it's not this neat math, right? That, it's a little bit more complicated, a little bit fuzzy, right? We call it fuzzy ROI because you are getting a return on investment ROI, but it's kind of fuzzy in how you calculate it. It's just that, at the end of the day, hey, if my best year ever before I started doing all this marketing stuff was 9 million in sales, and now I'm on pace to do 20 million plus, obviously what you're doing is working, right? Yeah. So my next question is, are you doing any other interesting marketing initiatives or stuff in the community, or are there any other marketing or pay-per-click companies or anything else you're doing to grow your business that seems to be working?
No, I don't have any online leads. I don't pay for any of the Zillows, Realtor.coms, any of those. I primarily have platform. I do a ton for my sphere, especially, so I'd always done client events, maybe one a year, but after coming to the mastermind last November, I decided to go all in on client events. So I hired a contractual event planner to help me out. And we are going to do, I think we're doing 5 or 6 events this year. We've already had 2.
Awesome.
Yep. And that's just something I love doing. So it's easy. I get to hang out with my friends and that are my clients. And it's just a lot of fun to give back to them in that way. And I also have a private Facebook community for my clients. And every time we have something going on in the community, we post it, or every time there's a closing, I'll like welcome someone into the community and tell them, hey, say hi, similar to what you all do with the platform group. And that's been just a really fun way to stay connected. So my primary focus is giving back to my sphere and being valuable to them beyond the closing. And I just started doing mailers. Like when I say just, I mean literally like 2 weeks ago. So I'm going to see how that turns out, but I thought I'd give something else a try and just track the return on it.
Okay. So like you have a lot of irons in the fire. You're doing client appreciation events. And I'm a huge fan of doing in-person real life stuff because, I mean, especially since the pandemic and COVID and everything, life has gotten so online and everything is done over Zoom meetings. I mean, obviously we're like recording this podcast, we're not in person, right? I'm doing this podcast from my office in Florida and you're all the way up in South Dakota. And yet often we end up doing that even for someone who's across town. It's like you're meeting with someone and you're like, hey, let's hop on a Zoom. It's like, you live in the same city. Why don't you just meet for coffee or whatever? It's just
Right. Yeah.
the culture has shifted that way, right? And so anytime that I think you can create an excuse to go mingle and hang out with people and socialize in person, it's really underrated as a marketing
Hmm.
strategy for building rapport, precisely because of fuzzy ROI. Like if you ask me, hey, Tim, why would you spend a bunch of money on client appreciation events? Because we do the platform mastermind every year,
Yep.
right? Like that's essentially a client appreciation event that we're not calling a client appreciation event, but that's what it is, right? And if you're like, hey, show me exactly how this generates revenue for the company, I'd be like, well, it doesn't. We lose about $150,000 a year putting on, this event because we don't charge, we don't have sponsors. It's just pure expense to us, right? In the same way that your client appreciation events, cost you money. They're not bringing in money; they cost you money, but
Hmm.
you do them because it's hard to capture on a spreadsheet. But just like building deeper relationships and hanging out with people in person creates long-term dividends because it warms up those relationships and takes them to like a deeper level. And I think what happens is you're using a live event to upgrade a business relationship to an actual relationship. And
Hmm.
those are two very, very different things, right? Like I can even say, I feel like I know you better. And this might sound dumb, but I feel like I know you better just because that one night at the mastermind last year, when you and your husband were walking through a Coronado Springs, the hotel that at Disney that the platform mastermind was at, and we just happened to walk by each other. And I can't remember if you had your kid there with you or I had
Hmm.
Rosie with me. I
I
forget.
did.
And then I think Grant Botma walked by. We ended up talking all together for, whatever, 10, 15 minutes. It wasn't this like marathon conversation, but it was like, hey, that's the first time I ever got to connect really like in person and have a dedicated conversation with Cheyenne. So I feel like I know you a little bit. And I can't quite put a price on that because I can't tell you on a spreadsheet, oh, here's how this positively impacts Cheyenne's relationship with platform because she talked to Tim
Right.
for 7 minutes at the mastermind or whatever. But like at scale, somehow intangibly that matters. You know what I mean? Like
Yep.
that's why you do client appreciation events. So that's awesome because if you combine that with all the social marketing you're doing with platform, those client appreciation events are absolutely going to take you to the next level. What are
Yep.
some examples of client appreciation events that you've done that you've loved that were fun? Walk us through some specifics of those and what you
Hmm.
spend on those.
Absolutely. So one of the first ones I did was last summer, and I had did it all on my own, and that's when I knew I needed help. So we have this place called Proudy Pottery, and they do those clay pots or cups or mugs, and you go in and paint them, and then they fire them, and you get them back, if that makes sense. And so I had a small group come to that, maybe like 7 to 10 people, but it was great. And not only did it help with my client building, but then I made really good friends with the business owner. And last month she messaged me and she's like, hey, oh, I actually have it. She's like, hey, I made you this mug. And it says sold is my favorite word. And she's like, thanks for supporting my business. And I love seeing you online. So it just like built that connection in a whole new way. That was about $300 only because I just paid for them whatever they wanted to make and
Yeah.
let them take it home. I hired my coordinator, and our first event this year was a bouquet making and chocolate event at this little event center. Oh, I forgot one. In December, I did a charcuterie board making, and that was a huge hit. I could only have 25 people, and it filled up in about 3 minutes. So that one was more expensive. It was about $1,500 all said and done because the charcuterie boards were just expensive to have come in, and I had someone teach how to do the class. And that one was really, really well attended, and I had great feedback from that. And then the bouquet event was in February. That was a lot of fun. And I actually got 3 clients from that because I told people that to get in for the door prize, they needed to register and write down somebody that I should connect with to buy or sell a house. And I did get 3 actual clients
Wow.
from that. And I
Wow.
think I only had like 20, 30 people show up. It's pretty simple. They came in, made a flower bouquet, grabbed some chocolate, took a picture, hung out, and left. Very laid back. And that one probably cost around, I think it cost around 700 to pay for the flowers. But then the owner of the location where we hosted it, she took all the leftover flowers to a nursing home and then
Oh, that's
tagged me
cool.
in the, like, she's like, thanks, Cheyenne, for sponsoring these flowers. We were able to give back to this nursing home. Like, thank you for
Yeah,
this
that's
community
cool.
give back. And my last one was in May. We did a shopping, charcuterie, and champagne event at a downtown boutique. So the boutique owner opened specially for us for a couple hours. It's on a Sunday afternoon. People would come in, shop new products, grab a snack, and just hang out. That one cost about 500 probably.
So a lot of these events you're doing are going to vary, let's say between $500, $1,500, something like
Mhm.
that. Um, I'm sensing a pattern here, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but you did like a shopping boutique with charcuterie, snacks, wine. You did making bouquets, flowers in February, and then you included chocolate with that. Like you could take some chocolate, eat some chocolate. What was the first one you said you did?
The first one I did was a pottery, basically pottery making.
Yeah, like kind of like showing you how to make your own pottery and get to leave
Mhm.
with your own coffee mug or whatever it was.
Yep.
It sounds like a lot of these events are marketed demographically, psychographically towards women, because I would imagine it's mostly women signing up for this. Is that correct?
These were, but my next few events are going to be a little different. So my event I have planned for August is family food truck and ice cream night at a
Oh,
local park.
cool.
And then fall is going to be, we don't have all the details lined out, but it's going to be like a family fall festival. And then we're going to have a big Christmas event
Cool.
for families at the end of the year. I would say, yes, it has been female focused, but only just because I'm like, this sounds fun to me.
Yeah,
Let's
no,
do.
right, right. Yeah, the reason I bring that up is because I think a lot of people use it as an excuse not to do events because they're like, oh, I can't think of something that everyone would want to attend. And I don't want to alienate any of my database or alienate any of my friends or leads by doing an event that they're not interested in. Like, I've got to do something that everyone will want to go to. It's like, well, there is no such thing as an event everyone will want to go to,
Mhm.
right? Like, even the platform mastermind, we get about 80% of our clients to attend, which I think is amazing, but it's not
Mhm.
100. There's still 20% of the clients every year who see that it's free and it's in like a tropical warm location in a cold month and they still don't go
Yeah.
for whatever reason, right? You're never going to be able to please everyone. There were some people who didn't go because it was at Disney. They didn't like the hustle and bustle of Disney. There are some people who won't go when the mastermind is in Naples, Florida, because they think it's too expensive or they don't like the beach or they whatever. We had one in Minnesota actually a couple years ago. We've had them in Texas before, and people will always have excuses for why they don't go. So if you're trying to put on a client appreciation event or you're delaying, you're procrastinating, and it's like, I just don't know the perfect event. It's like, well, just do what you want to do because it's
Mhm.
okay if your events are geared towards women. And if you're a dude and you're listening to this, it's like, well, you can go play paintball. You can do a beer and pizza client appreciation event. You can
Mhm.
do a fantasy football draft. You can go to a rodeo. You can do, whatever, right? There's all sorts of more like dude masculine oriented things that you can do. And does that mean that almost everyone who shows up will probably be a guy? Yeah, but that's fine if you're a guy, right? Like it's it's a false narrative that like you have to have 50-50 attendance, that somehow, oh, if I'm not attracting guys and girls, that the event isn't balanced and that's not good. It's like, just do what feels natural to you, because the event will feel much more real and organic if it's, like it'd be weird if Cheyenne was like, hey, we're gonna go play paintball and then order beer and pizza and then do a
Yeah.
fantasy football draft, because it'd be like, oh, that's not the Cheyenne I know, like that. It would be weird, right?
It would not be on brand.
In the same way, imagine how weird it would be if I'm at a platform mastermind and like, hey, as a special activity on opening night, Tim is going to teach you how to make a charcuterie board and everyone who comes gets free chocolate and champagne. And like people would be like, is this a joke? Like it just wouldn't be aligned with what anyone knows about me, right? So do whatever client appreciation events
Mhm.
feel natural to you. Likewise, if you're like, I don't know, if you were super into dirt biking or ATVing or something, that was just like your thing, I would totally tell you, hey, Cheyenne, you should host like a trail riding session or do like a motocross event where you teach people how to ride dirt bikes or ATV. Like if that's what you love, absolutely do that, right? But don't use it as an excuse not to do events. Because I think even in the platform, for people listening to this podcast right now that are currently working with platform marketing, it's probably the biggest opportunity for most agents to grow their business is start doing more live, in-person, in real life client appreciation events, because you can't just sit back and rely on Facebook ads, Instagram ads, videos on YouTube, whatever. Like, that's not going to grow your business in isolation. You know,
Mm-hmm.
if you combine that with a bunch of cool stuff that you're doing in the community, then yeah, your business can blow up. So it's not at all surprising to me that your business has doubled, actually, frankly, more than doubled in the last year, because you're combining it with this stuff in real life. And it's like this 1+1 = 3 effect.
Yeah, and it's so much fun to also get the feedback from the business we support. So in every single client event, we match it with supporting a locally owned small business.
Right.
And that's so cool to see, like, my clients that may have never entered this store otherwise, they're now a raving fan of this small business. And it just creates like our own ecosystem. And I had one of my clients yesterday that came to my event in May that went to the shopping event. And she's like, yeah. And then I went back and I had to buy 3 more shirts. And her husband was with her. He's like, yeah. And then I got to do more fishing because she's shopping there. And so it was just like a fun connection.
Yeah.
And just, and don't overthink it either. I feel like at first I was way overthinking that it needed to be something big and fancy and extravagant and
Right.
expensive. But it's like, no, literally just, she opened her storefront. I brought snacks. People shopped for 2 hours. And it was great. I even had another agent's wife come because she's friends with one of my clients. And she's like, he's not doing these kinds of events, so I'm just going to come to your event. And I was like, okay, that's fine.
Yeah. Well, if you ever, is it Big Dipper or Little Dipper? What's the ice cream place in Rapid City? It's in downtown. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, well, we have Cold Stone is one. We have Armadillos is another one. And let's see, those are the 2 big ones I can think of.
There's one, maybe it's not big. I swear it was like Big Dipper or Little Dipper ice cream in Rapid City. That it was in like the downtown area, like in the Main Street old downtown area. Because I was actually in Rapid for a conference a couple years ago, and I remember going there and getting their vanilla ice cream, and it was like,
oh sure,
life changing in July. So,
mm-hmm.
Well, if you're doing an event in August, maybe I'll have to crash the party, because I think I'm gonna be up in Minnesota for the better part of the summer. So
yeah, you have to come grab a snack from the food truck and grab some ice cream. It'll be fun.
Yeah. So your business has grown a lot. You're doing client appreciation events, but I know you've also invested in kind of some personal growth, personal development. Mm-hmm. You're working with Lindsay Litton right now, who's a respected coach that several of the platform clients in the platform have worked with or are working with Lindsay. Would you mind sharing what that work has looked like and what are the key insights that you've taken from that coaching? Because like a lot of agents hire coaches and it's mixed results, right? They're like, oh, I hired a coach and I paid a lot of money and I'm not really sure what the point of it was, or it was just to keep me accountable and I didn't really learn anything per se. Or like, if you ask in any Facebook group, is coaching worth it? You'll get very passionate responses, like either way. Some people swear by it and they think it's the best investment they've ever made. Other people are like, total waste of money. Why has that coaching relationship with Lindsay been so valuable to you? And what have been the main insights that you've taken from that so far?
I knew in 2025, one of my biggest goals was to scale as a business owner, not just a real estate agent, not just in sales, but as an actual business owner and getting more involved with my business. And I needed to hire, and I really didn't know how to take that next step. So I did interview a couple of coaches. I knew I didn't want a coaching program that was just like teaching, I don't know, that wasn't in the nitty gritty of the actual business. Like, I didn't need someone just to tell me to call leads. I needed someone to say, this is how you scale and this is how you become a more systemized business owner. And that's exactly what Lindsay has done for me. She has helped me, one, analyze my financials, which is huge, and take some big steps to, one, improving my profitability, and 2, just really taking control. Because I always felt at the end of the year, I was like, okay, I made X amount, but where is that? Where did it go? Where are my investments? What's the return? And so that's what we spent a long time doing yesterday. And also, she's helped me hire 2 people, which has been big for me because I was really afraid to bring on an admin. Like, I have a transaction coordinator, but I needed more of like a marketing admin and an in-person admin. And I was so scared to even start. Like, I had no idea how to set up an SOP. I had no idea how to set up a plan or even how to set up like a offer. So she really helped me with that. And I feel much more confident as a business owner. And now I feel if I need to hire, I have the systems in place, I have the tracking, and it's just really helped me move the needle and get me out of the mindset of just being in real estate sales and becoming a business owner, that my business can now give back to others by creating more jobs and opportunities, which is something that I've grown to really love.
Now, were you involved in like local economic development in the area prior to being a realtor? Is that, or
Yeah.
while you were a realtor?
Yeah. So my very first, I call it my first big kid job out of college, was I was the economic development director for our small little town. And so I did community development, economic development, business development, all of those things. So when you said that about events, you can't make everybody happy, I learned that real fast when I
Yeah.
was doing community events. So, yep, that was my role before I jumped into real estate.
So I've said before, and I'll say it again. I think like you're doing a good job as a platform realtor if you do what most economic development and chamber of commerce people should be doing, but never do, which is like actually promote the community with no strings attached.
Mm-hmm.
Because so often those jobs are just like nonprofit, where
It was.
they show up to work every day, they fill their day with questionable activities, and it's like, okay, 5 years later, 2 years later, whatever, did the town actually grow, right? And the answer is almost always no. But
Mm-hmm.
as a realtor, I feel like you're in this unique position to actually benefit a community because you have a built-in incentive plan to want to promote the community and build your brand because it benefits your real estate business, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know, as the economic development director, chamber of commerce president, whatever, of any town, it's like if you were to actually somehow grow your town by 10% or 20% and you could track it to things you had done, that doesn't necessarily flow to you in the form of commissions or anything. It's kind of like, oh, good job, we'll raise your
Mm-hmm.
salary by 2%. You know what I mean? Like, there's not this built-in incentive where it's aligned. But when you're a realtor, if you promote a local small business, like you said, you film a video or you make a retargeting ad at a local boutique or a flower shop or whatever, you actually have this built-in financial and psychological incentive to want to promote that small business, because if your video promoting them gets a bunch of views, that helps your brand,
Mm-hmm.
right? And if people remember you, then that's how you get to your business doubling from doing 9 million a year to 20 million a year, or or more, because at 20 million your GCI is probably $500,000, so you're making very, very good money for actually being involved in the community, because your incentives are so aligned. Like I'll just go on a limb here and assume that if you were the economic development director for Wall, you were not making $500,000, a year in that position, right?
Yeah.
And so like getting to do what you do now, you're probably doing a lot of the same things. You're promoting the
Mm-hmm.
community, promoting small businesses, but it's this true win-win where it's like, hey, I can actually spend more money on this and get them more eyeballs, and I actually get paid better on the back end because I just happen to be a real estate agent, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm like a champion of the community who just happens to be a real estate agent. And I
Yep.
think that's a good kind of mentality to have. Okay, so let's talk about some of the actual Facebook ads that you've run, Cheyenne.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of your favorite ads over the last couple of years, whether they were photos, videos, retargeting ads, or if there's any like specific listing videos that maybe stand out? What have been like the most engaging, most successful ads where people in the community have actually been like, oh, I love that ad you did, or I remember this photo or that video? Like, are there two or three that come to mind of like these particular ads really did well in the community?
To go back to what you were just saying about community development, really anything community based,
Okay.
anything small business spotlight based does very well. So I did the God Made a Small Business Owner. I hope I'm saying that correctly. I did that one probably 2 winters ago. And that one went so well. I had so many thank yous and compliments and shares on that video. And people would say, oh, I saw my business on there. Thanks for doing that. Or I saw my friend's business on there. Thanks for doing that. So anytime I do a business spotlight, it goes incredibly well because it just reaches such a big audience. Um, I don't know, all my listing videos are pretty fun. I am not as creative as I would like to be on my listing videos, but I try to do something a little different on each one. So I get good feedback just on putting those out there, but I could improve my creativity a little bit. And my personal moments seem to do well too, because people say, oh, I saw that you went on this trip. That must have been really fun. And good for you for getting time away. Stuff like that, just connecting with people seems to go well. Unfortunately, I'm sorry, I can't think of like one besides the God Made a Small Business Owner that
Yeah, yeah.
did really well. But
Now, when you say personal moment, again, I know some people might know what you're
oh
talking
yeah,
about, but a lot of agents listening to this are like, okay, what's that? Like, in your own words, define what is a personal moment ad.
quite literally just something that I am doing. So when I went on a trip to Utah back in March and I posted that, and so many people commented and were asking me tips on where to go in Utah and
Oh,
how
you
was my
ran,
trip.
you like ran a marathon, right?
A half,
Okay.
just a half.
Yeah. So like this is an example of that, of like, I even remember you posting about that when you said, oh, I went to Utah. My brain is like, oh, that's right. I remember she went
Hmm.
there for a race, right?
Yep.
Like, and I don't even live in your market, right? But I remember seeing the social media posts about that.
Yep. I think those do really well, those personal moments, just sharing what's going on in your life, because it helps with, again, that connection, that people know you're not just trying to sell them something all the time. You're trying to connect with them and show you what your real life is. And authenticity is really big to me. I never want to show up in a place where I'm different online than I am in real life. I want people to know that the person they see is the person they're going to meet. And being authentic is just one of my biggest core values, I would say. So I love sharing my personal moments and getting to know my audience, I guess.
So it sounds like the personal moment ads, like the stuff that's truly custom to you,
Mhm.
is what's working. Uh, how much do you spend in a given month on ads? Do you know what like your ads budget is? I know that every month can probably vary a little bit,
Mhm.
but is there a general number you tend to stick around, like $1,000 a month, or $800 a month, or $1,500 a month? Like, what are you spending on the actual Facebook ads budget?
For the longest time, I was 900. And then after the mastermind, I decided to increase my budget. I believe I'm around 12 to 1500 now.
Okay, cool. So I would imagine that number increases if you have a month where you have a bunch of listings.
Hmm.
So it flexes a little bit. So somewhere in that 1,500 ish um, budget per month, and again, that has taken you from selling 9 million a year to this year you'll probably hit 20 million or beyond. Um, you mentioned you'd done some like budgeting work and kind of studying
Hmm.
the financials with your coach, Lindsay Litton. What are your goals? Like, what would you say your big picture goal is for your real estate business in the next 1 to 3 years? Like, is there like a finish line you want? Is there a certain sales volume or number of transactions or profitability you want to build? I mean, like, what is your goal in your business over the next couple of years?
So I have never, this is going to sound funny, but I've never been a big numbers driven person. And I would say that's really changed the last couple of years. Okay. Going very back. When I first started in real estate, I wrote down, and I hope it's okay to share numbers. So I wrote down, I want to make 250,000 GCI.
Yep.
And I've hit that, and I'm going to hit that probably within the next month or so. And
And you're
one
and you're
thing,
and you're halfway through the year because
mhm,
we're recording this in May, just so people know in case you're listening in the future. So you're going to
yep,
hit 250,000 in GCI before the year's half over.
yeah, that looks like where it's going to be. So one thing that I noticed is, did my life miraculously change when I made $250,000 a year? Did that number really change my life? Not necessarily, because I hit that goal and I'm like, all right, what's the next one? What's the next one? So one thing that I'm focused on for this year is, how can I create systems in my business to be extremely profitable, to hit that 500,000 a year, but maintain my presence in my real life, but still be able to be home with my family and still be able to take vacations, because I want it to set up my life so I'm not just constantly working in the business and on the phone until 10 o'clock at night to hit those numbers. I want it to be a sustainable lifestyle. So that's been one of my biggest goals, was systemizing and hiring for this last year. And I really look up to Cara Farah. She is a big inspiration to me with all of her marketing and with her business. And I just have a ton of respect for her and what she's built. So she's someone that I really watch and try to learn from, to kind of try to create my business in a similar way that she has. And one of my biggest goals is that the business comes to me, that I'm not out chasing leads constantly. And that's really started to happen this last year is I get messages, calls, emails. I want you to come list my house and I want to buy a house with you. Um, and I want it to be that easy connection and conversation. So, kind of a big way around your question is I don't necessarily have a gigantic GCI number. I am extremely grateful and happy with the amount of compensation that I have made. It creates a wonderful life for myself and my family. And I don't feel like we're struggling, but I want to make sure that I can maintain presence in my life. So, setting up systems to make that possible is very important.
If you had to pick a specific sales volume number or income number, and I'm like forcing you to pick on this podcast, what is that goal? Assuming that, like you said, you're maintaining that lifestyle, that work-life balance. You're not working 80 hours a week to get to it. Like, what would you say? Hey, if I can maintain a reasonable work-life balance, my goal is to make 400 in GCI or 500 or 350, or like, what would you say is like, I would actually, here's a different, here's a different way of wording it. What dollar amount of GCI this year, because you're already at 250 and we're halfway through the year. What dollar amount this year would you be disappointed in if you didn't hit it by the end of the year?
I'd be disappointed if I didn't make over 450. I really believe that I could hit five. And I believe that because when I wrote down 250, I thought I could never do it. I thought it would never be possible. And now I see that it is possible to hit those big numbers. I mean, love to make $1 million, but I'd also love for that to give back to more agents on my team and more admins and just grow my business that way.
Okay, that's a really good way of thinking about it. Like, what number would you actually be disappointed if you didn't hit it? And for you, it's now actually kind of getting to that 450 mark, where it wasn't that long ago that your total GCI for the whole year was more like 150.
Mm-hmm.
And now have basically more or less, you probably tripled from where you were at that point. So that's pretty cool.
The first time I hit 100, I thought, wow, I'm just doing so great. Like, this is a crazy amount of money. There's no way.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
my first job, I think it was like a $30,000 a year salary. And
Yeah.
I was just happy with that because I had a job that was a real job. But then,
Yep.
yeah, when I hit my first 100,000, I was like, wow, this is the top of the iceberg. I'm
Yep.
never like, this is amazing. It just improves from there. And that's why I love real estate, is because it's an exact like copy paste of the work you put in. I could not sit in an office job and get paid a salary and I felt working harder than other people and be stuck at maybe a 25-cent raise every year. I was like, no, I'm going to put in the work and I'm going to go into a career where my effort is matched.
Yeah. Where, like, if you work harder, excuse me, if you're better than other people and the value
Mm-hmm.
you bring to the world is a higher level than other people, that you get paid exactly according to the value that you're bringing.
Yep.
Yeah, I think many agents lose sight of that because, like, it's frankly, I don't want to say it's not hard to make 100K in real estate, but if you're a really hard worker, it's a lot easier to make 100K in real estate than in most other professions that you would apply that same hard work to, right? Because,
Mm-hmm.
like you said, it's truly eat what you kill. If you're good at what you do, you can make that. But I think a lot of agents hit a plateau right around, it obviously depends on the market you're in and the price points that you're in. But I've seen a lot of agents hit a plateau around 20 to 30 homes a year, where they work hard, they get to the point they're selling 20, maybe 25, maybe if they're lucky, they get to 30 transactions a year. But that's usually where you just hit a wall. And you can't get above 25 or 27, or you can't hit above 30.
Mm-hmm.
And it's usually because, like, that at that point you've exhausted your sphere of influence, and all your friends and family that might be in the market to buy our house have already bought or sold with you. And at that point, you also run out of hours in the day.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you're probably working 50 hours a week or more. And so if hustle was the way you grew your business and just putting in the time, at a certain point, you can't you can't make 100 grand by working 50 hours a week, and then say, oh, well, I want to double my business next year. I guess I'll just work 100 hours a week so I can double my, it's like, no, you don't have
Hmm.
that time, right? That's not an actual decision you can make. So at some point you have to invest in marketing to bring in more leads so that your time is actually scalable, so that you can still keep working that 50 hours a week, or, ideally even 40, and grow your income,
Yeah.
and that only happens if leads are coming to you versus you going out and chasing leads. And I think your career arc over the last couple of years is like a perfect case study in this point, where, because correct me if I'm wrong, Cheyenne, but I'm guessing that if I were to ask you, hey, how many hours a week were you working when you sold 9 million? I bet you were working 40, 50 hours a week. Like, you weren't
Oh yeah.
working part-time, right? It
But
was.
never. No.
So somehow, I think a lot of agents gloss over this. Somehow it's equally true that you felt super busy selling 9 million, and you were busy. You were working probably 50 hours a week, and yet this year you're going to sell over 20 million, and you might even actually feel less busy selling over 20 million because you have those systems, and more importantly,
Hmm.
you have a marketing ecosystem that's having leads call you, where the business is coming to you versus you going out and chasing it.
Yep. And letting go control of things that I physically do not have to do in the business. That was really difficult for me at first. I had always said, I'm never going to hire a transaction coordinator because I don't want to miss something in the business, or I don't just want to hand off my business. And it has not been that way at all. It allows my business to continue to run while I am showing and meeting new people and hosting these events. And I'm still involved 100%. But I don't like, it was really hard for me to let go of that, but it's been a big mindset shift for me, and something that Lindsay has really helped me with in my coaching is that you don't have to do everything. And if you let go of that control, your business can really start to grow, because then I have so much more time to put into putting my platform content together and getting my ads out, because I don't have to do every single tiny thing. I'm still my client's point of contact in all ways, shapes, and forms, but I don't have to order the survey, and I don't have to
Right.
like make sure that this addendum got sent over the title company, things like that. So it's just been a big mindset shift for me this last year.
And it gives you, when you kind of like, when you release yourself from some of those like more mundane, like administrative tasks, you have more creative energy and mental, emotional energy to tackle the things like marketing and doing events and creating content, because it's this weird phenomenon, at least it's true for me, where uh, I can sometimes get to the end of the day and I technically have whatever 90 minutes left at the end of the day. Like, I'm finished with all the work I was hoping to do today, and it's 3:30 p.m. and I'm going to work till 5, and I technically still have 90 minutes left. I could work on like creative stuff like writing or filming videos, creating content, whatever. But like at the end of a hard day, if you've just been like in the trenches doing the work, you don't have the emotional energy to be like, I'm going to do something super creative in the last 90 minutes, right? Like, you're just emotionally spent. I've found to do anything that's remotely creative or requires me being like fully mentally present and kind of in that creative mode, I have to be like stress free. It has to be
Hmm.
first thing in the morning, and I haven't done anything else that day, and I'm like giving it my full mental energy, almost like I have a battery that like wanes throughout the day, because
Yep.
you'll, as an entrepreneur, like, you'll often have time on the calendar to do things. Like, technically you have the hours in the day, but you don't have the mental energy to tackle
Right.
things. And I think that's why so many people benefit from hiring an assistant, hiring a TC, is that they think, oh, I have time to do all this stuff, I don't need to hire it out. It's like, you don't realize what it's costing you not to have the emotional energy that you could be investing in other things, even if you technically have the time. Because I think you would admit that, like, hey, yeah, I mean, technically you could probably sell 20 million a year and not have a TC or not have an assistant. There are plenty of people who do, but they have absolutely zero margin mentally at the end of the day.
Yep.
They just get home and, they're probably not super present with their families or husbands or wives, or they're not doing anything exceptionally creative with client appreciation events or being involved in the community or their church or whatever they're doing
Hmm.
outside of their business life, right? It's not always about the literal hours or the time. It's about how much emotional energy do you have left over after doing all the work stuff.
Yep. And I wouldn't be able to implement the new things that I want to try, like the mailers and these increased client events, if I didn't have the support and if I was mentally drained, because it's still, no matter what, you're in, you're still negotiating contracts, negotiating inspections, dealing with drama
Yep.
all day, all the time.
Yeah.
But just having that backup support so that if I need to block an hour to go gather some content, I don't feel like things are slipping through the cracks in the business, because that's what they started to do. Like, I started to get so busy that I wasn't able to respond to things on time. I wasn't getting ads out. I wasn't able to do anything besides just be in the business. And then I noticed my pipeline was dwindling because I was so focused on the day-to-day, the, like you said, admin type tasks, that I wasn't going out and building my business. So I noticed I was in a real busy season, and then looking the couple months ahead, I was like, oh my gosh, I have one deal under contract. What am I going to do for the next 3 months? So it's just been a good shift for me. Hard for me to give up that control, but at the same time, very worthwhile. And I learned a lot from other platform agents on how they had set up their businesses and systems.
All right, a couple rapid fire kind of quick questions as we wrap this up, Cheyenne. What is the average price point in your market, just so people can kind of piece together what your market looks like?
Yeah, so Rapid City is our main city, as we had already discussed. And within probably about a 20-mile radius of Rapid City, our average price point is about 450 to 500. Actually, it's kind of high. Most first-time buyer houses right now are 300 to 350 in our market.
Okay, so most of the volume is going to be, let's call it 400,000. That okay.
Yeah.
So your price point is anywhere between three and $500,000. In your market, how seasonal is it? You're in, kind of western South Dakota and kind of the Black Hills. Are you selling like 90% of your volume in the summer months, and then the winter you just hibernate? Or like, what does that seasonal fluctuation look like for you?
Yeah, I would say it is pretty seasonal just with our weather. So nobody wants to move that bad in the wintertime. So January, February are traditionally very slow. And then things kick back up in March. And right now it's really, really busy season until we hit August. We have the big Sturgis motorcycle rally here in
Yep.
August. So things
Yep.
just kind of die off for a couple of weeks and then they pick up. We have a pretty strong fall market too. That's usually the standard. This year, I was very blessed to have a couple of large transactions the beginning of the year. So it started off the year strong and it's just maintained from there.
Yeah, because you're close to a lot of kind of like iconic towns. It's what Rapid, am I getting this right? Rapid, Sturgis,
Mhm.
Deadwood, and then Spearfish.
Yeah, yeah. And then we also have like Hill City, Keystone. So Keystone's where Mount Rushmore is.
And that's all South Black Hills. Yeah.
And like Hot Springs, and where I live is where the Badlands National Park is located.
Yeah.
So we just have a real cool, we have a lot of second home buyers out in this area. We have a lot of snowbirds too that are here during the summer and leave in the winter. So it's just, yeah, it's always pretty shifting, but we have traditionally, and I work with my grandma who's been in the business since the 70s, so I get good insight on the history of our market. And she said traditionally our market stays pretty isolated, besides like COVID was wild here.
Sure.
But besides that big increase, we stay fairly steady with prices, and our inventory's up right now.
Has your personal business changed since you started the platform strategy? Where is your personal business, again, not like the overall market, but your personal production, has it become more even throughout the year, where you're doing more in the winter, where your winters aren't as dead as they used to be? Or have you not really noticed the difference?
I would say that I'm pretty steady. Of course, this time of year, I'm closing anywhere from 4 to 6 a month, but wintertime, it's like maybe two, just depending on the season. But I usually have a lot of people that start prepping in the winter, and then we're
Sure.
ready by about right now. But I also sell farm ranch land from time to time. So that helps a lot with having kind of bigger deals in the off season.
Sure. What is your ratio of listings to buyers? Like, if you look back at all the transactions you did last year, or what you anticipate you'll do this year, are you 50-50? Are you 80% listings, 20% buyers? What does that ratio look like?
Historically, I was 50-50 the last few years. I'm leaning a lot more listing heavy now. And I'm at the point in my life where a lot of my clients that I helped buy houses when I started when I was 23, they bought their first house and now they're leveling up. So I have a lot of buy sell clients right now.
I think that's really important to point that out, that as your business has grown, you're shifting that ratio to more be listing heavy, because if someone sells, you're on pace to sell like 20 million this year or more. Selling 20 million, but having it be half buyers is a very different lifestyle from a work-life balance perspective than selling 20 million if 80% are listings, right?
Yes.
So it's like not every dollar, not every commission is created equal, right? So that's awesome that you've shifted more towards working with sellers. That's a much more scalable way of being in the real estate business and still having a life.
Yeah. And it's a lot more process focused, which I appreciate with listings. It's pretty much, you have your prep, like listing process is much more streamlined. Buyers can be a lot more random, maybe I would say. And
So
time with buyers is a lot more heavy.
last question here as we wrap this up. If you could go back in time and talk to 23-year-old Cheyenne about how to build a bigger, better real estate business faster, like how to grow your business faster, right? So rather than doing what you have done, I'm not even sure how many years you've been in the business total, but 7. So rather than doing what you have done over the last 7 years, whether you have regrets or not, I'm sure that you can think of some things you would have done differently if you had known then what you know now, right? What would you tell 23-year-old Cheyenne about, hey, start doing this right away and you'll be successful, faster? Like, what would you do differently if you could go back in time 7 years ago?
Okay. The one thing I would do differently is I would invest in marketing a lot sooner. I did zero marketing besides just random posts on Facebook and Instagram when I felt like it. I had no strategy and no plan until I hired Platform. I would invest in Platform or a marketing plan way earlier. I would also start doing client events way earlier and start growing my online community of my clients day one instead of right now, and not just sending them one calendar a year. One thing I think I am blessed to have done correctly is I started on a team with very seasoned agents and I had a built-in mentor. So I always, from day one had support, and I had a solid team to ask questions of, so that I truly say that I feel like I started 5 years ahead just by having an incredible mentor.
Yeah, you had that like support network and like emotional infrastructure of not living on an island.
Yep.
Cool. Well, Cheyenne, thank you for your time. I know your time is incredibly valuable. You mentioned you're actually meeting with like $1 million builder later today who's interviewing you because they're curious about your marketing, kind of what you can provide for them. So I hope that meeting goes well, and wish you the best of luck. I'll see you at the mastermind later this year in December, and I'm sure if we talk then that you'll be able to look back and your business will have exceeded 20 million, and you absolutely smashed your goals.
Well, thank you. And thank you to you and the Platform team for all you do and all you've done for my business and the community that you all have created. It's something very special, and I'm incredibly grateful to be a part of it.
All right, we'll have to do a sequel episode sometime where we just talk about a wall drug for an hour, because we failed to get to that in this episode. So maybe we'll do a part 2.
I'll bring the maple donuts. No chocolate around here.
And 25-cent coffee.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, Cheyenne.